I'm just putting a bit of a hone on my utility knife here. Don't forget, every couple of weeks, or if you don't use your knives that often, couple of months, you do need to take them into the knife store to have a new edge put on, have the edges reground. Otherwise, you're going to find that no matter how much you try and hone them, they just don't get sharp. Utility knives are sort of the tweener knives of the knife family. They're not quite in one group, not quite in another, but they accomplish some very specific tasks. Here, I've got this serrated utility knife. It's also referred to as a tomato knife when you see these little points on it for picking up slices of tomatoes. We have a straight edge utility knife, which as you can see is sort of a cross between a slicer and a paring knife. It looks like a very long parer. We have a cheese knife that we're going to talk about more when we discuss slicers. And we have what I call the ultimate tweener knife or utility knife, the Japanese cook's knife, which does so many jobs so well. Well, the first thing I want to do is show you how this serrated utility knife glides effortlessly through tomatoes. Now, you can take a tomato corer or a parer or a straight edge utility knife and take the stem end of that tomato right out of there, and then carve thin 1/4-inch slices of tomato, or if you like, really thin 1/16 of an inch slices out of that tomato. And it's very easy then to spread those out on a plate when you have such nice, beautiful, thin slices. Now, the other thing that this serrated utility knife is for is not just the soft skin of a tomato, but the tough, fibrous skin of a pineapple, where you need that hard cutting action of the serrated edge to kind of power through the fibers that are there. The first thing I want to do is take the top of this pineapple off, set that in there, and then all I want to do is use a light sawing motion. And if you see, I'm using the middle of the blade. And I'm going to take off roughly equidistant sections that I don't worry about those eyes. I'm going to come back and get that later with one of my paring knives. I just want to take off that outermost layer of skin. And you see this sawing motion that I'm using back and forth. And then you can remove the bottom if you want. I like to leave it on at first because it allows me to come back here, and I'm actually going to use this knife and get some of these large eyes from the corners out of there. And you see how easy it is with a knife like this to clean that pineapple right up. Get these out of the way. And if you like, you can even use that same knife to go down through that core, which is kind of tricky in there. And then you can cut them into halves or boats, quarter them, take the core out with a paring knife or a melon baller, whatever you like. But it's that beautiful serrated slicer here, this utility knife, that's going to power through the outside of that skin. Now, my straight edge utility knife is perfect for taking the sections out of an orange. And again, all I want to do is cut these ends off. Again, I'm using the middle of the knife for that. And just like when we were taking the skin off that pineapple, I'm going to be making equal size cuts here. But if you notice, I'm doing much more precise work on this small orange, and I'm using the front of the knife for that. And if you notice, I'm choking up a little bit so that I have the control that I need on that. And any little bits of white pith that I may find on there that I've missed, I can come back and pick up, because those are objectionable, especially for our purpose here, which is to take out beautiful segments of orange. So, away with our skin, using a bowl to catch the juice in my segments, keeping the blade of the knife towards me, choking up, holding it firmly, with the membranes of the orange running parallel to my waistline. I'm going to come in at a 45-degree angle and then go straight down, and it falls away. Again, 45-degree angle, then straight down, and it falls away. 45-degree angle, straight down, and it falls away. And I can just repeat that all along the orange until all I'm left with is a bunch of membranes that I can discard, and those beautiful orange segments are left behind. And I just fold those over. This orange is so delicate and this knife is so sharp. Sometimes I'm cutting through the membranes, which is fine because you can just go right back into your bowl and pull them out. Now, when I come across one of those little segments of orange that doesn't quite go all the way through, I just skip it. And then at the very end, I'm going to be left with quite a lot of meat here, but nothing that I can use. And so all I do is I place that in another bowl and I save it for juice. But here I have these beautiful, seedless, skinless membranes. We call these orange supremes, and the best knife to do that with is this straight edge utility knife. Now, the Asian or Japanese chef's knife can do so many things. And like the chef's knife before that we used, the German chef's knife, I can use this to chop, but unlike those other knives, it's short enough and it's got a blade that's sharpened all the way through to the bolster. Do you see that? Compared to these German knives where the bolster is not sharpened, it's more like a blade guard. These knives are sharpened all the way through. So what it allows me to do is use the knife blade right up to the edge there, and that gives me great chopping control. So I can then take pieces like this, these little diamonds, and make those allumettes or matchsticks that we made earlier. Those little brunoise cuts, any shape that we like. But unlike a chef's knife, this allows me, if I would like to do very, very fine work with the tip. And you notice how high up on there I'm holding my knife. With a knife like this, I'm just holding my finger there to keep it balanced. I'm gripping that knife almost in the middle, much in the same way some people like to grip golf putters these days. And I'm able to make very controlled slices out of my tomato, all with this Japanese cook's knife, which, if you notice, has many of the characteristics that these cleavers do. The first one is the width of the knife, and you can see here at the back that they're both very, very thin. Now that means that they're the same thin width all the way through the knife, so that when they cut into something, they can make a very, very thin cut as opposed to breaking it apart because they're so fat or wide. Now the other commonality that they have is in the cutting edge itself. Both are very sharp from the tip of the toe all the way to the back of the heel. There's no bolster on either one, which means that you can cut on all different parts of the blade and do a lot of different things with each knife. Let's see what else we can do with cleavers.